Hey everyone, Boardgame Brody here with Meeple Mountain. I have a prototype copy of Life of the Amazonia. It's a new set collection animal meeple placement bag builder game published by Bad Comic Games. And before we begin, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. It's something super easy for you to do and it's really helpful for us. And now let's get right into this. Players are working in their own sections of the jungles to restore the land by placing animals, trees, and flowers to form an eco-friendly jungle that scores a lot of points. All aspects of your jungle blend together and you'll be looking to take advantage of synergies between whatever you can to gain extra points. This is a very strategic game as players will have many choices and there are various setups to change these strategies that you will find. Each game you will select a set of animal cards to use for that game. Each set has 8 different animals, and they suggest you start with set A to begin. But as you learn the game, you'll be able to mix up the sets and choose one animal of each type to play with. Depending on the number of players in the game, you will have a set number of animal meeples of each type of animal from the animal cards. This is a chart that you will use during setup to help you with this. The waterfall composes of various tracks to keep track of things. You have the restoration track on top, the tree track in the middle, and the aquatic flower track on the bottom. This small track is the storage track, and here is a list of bonuses that can be used for purchasing. Each player also starts with a starting terrain tile, and as the game progresses, players will gain additional terrain tiles to expand their jungle. Since this is a bag builder, each player has a bag and they start with 10 resources. 5 1 currency tokens, 2 1 leaf tokens, 2 1 water tokens, and 1 2 fruit token. Each player has a discard boat for their discarded tokens while playing in the game, and then each player is dealt out 2 unique animal cards. Each player will choose one to place face up in front of them, and they will find the matching animal meeple to match with it. All other components are placed into piles and the token boxes are open so that you can grab the tokens to add to your bag or your supply. The goal of the game is to gain the most environmental points, which is indicated by a star icon. Again, you will do this by placing animals, trees, and flowers in the best areas that synergizes each other. So be mindful on where you place everything. Nature cards can also be helpful, and I'll explain those here in a moment. This game is a bag builder, so knowing what you can draw out of your bag is important. You'll be able to purchase additional tokens and place them in your discard area that will eventually make it to your bag. You have currency from 1 to 4, leaf tokens from 1 to 4, water tokens from 1 to 4, and fruit from 2 to 4. These all will be needed to do different actions in the game. Players will take turns in a clockwise direction. A turn consists of an action phase where the player will use their current resources to do as many actions as they would like. There are 8 total different actions that can be performed. And then after, the player does a quick cleanup, which consists of saving a certain amount of resources and discarding the rest, and then drawing out 5 new resources for the next turn. And this cleanup can be done while the next player starts their turn. The game continues until 5 of the 8 base animal cards have been depleted, in which all other players, after the player who triggered the end, will take one last turn, and the player with the most environmental points at that point will win the game. So to understand this game, you'll need to know your options. So let me go over the 8 actions that you can perform on your turn, and performing these actions will also be determined by which tokens that you draw out of your bag. So keep that in mind as well. On your turn, you can use multiple resource tokens to perform an action, and if you have excess when paying, they are wasted. You can only perform one type of action with a single payment, and you cannot separate the amount of single resource tokens to perform more than one type of action. However, with a single payment, you can perform the same action again. This won't happen much, but it is possible. And lastly, you should know that any 2 resource tokens can take place of any 1 value resource of your choice. Okay, let's talk about these 8 actions that you can do in the game. So you can purchase more resource tokens, and this will develop your resource bag to take bigger and better actions and let you build your jungle more efficiently. The price of these tokens are shown on the bottom of the token vault. When a certain type of token is depleted from the vault, you can no longer buy that token. Newly bought tokens are placed in your discard boat, And when there are no more tokens left in the bag, when more tokens need to be drawn, you will take the tokens from your discard boat and dump them into your bag to then finish drawing tokens. The bag reset is only performed when you need to draw tokens and there are none left. You can also restore terrain by adding a new terrain tile to your jungle. To do this, you will move your marker on the restoration track once to the right and pay the amount shown. If there's a bonus, you will collect that immediately. There are two types of bonuses on these tracks, and if the bonus is listed on the bottom of the space, this is a bonus that all players can receive when moving into that space. If the bonus is listed in the middle of the space and has a sparkling border, then the player who first moves onto the space gets this bonus only. In a 4-player game, it will actually be awarded to the first 2 players to move onto that space with the sparkling border. So you will take one of the 3 face-up terrain tiles and place it into your jungle. This tile can be rotated, it cannot be placed on another tile, and the new tile needs to be connected to the jungle by at least 2 hexes. Once placed, you will need to draw a new tile and place it face up in the terrain tile pool. Each terrain tile has 7 small hexagons, referred to as hexes, and each hex can only hold 1 life, which refers to an animal, a tree, or a flower. So 2 different components cannot share a hex. There are 3 types of hexes: forest in the green, river in the blue, and wetlands in the brown. Some hexes have a bonus listed on it. When something is placed there, you will gain the bonus listed immediately. This is called the placement bonus. And now when placing these tiles, you will be forming habitats. This refers to a group of hexes of the same type of terrain. When counting the size of a habitat, you'll count the number of hexes that make up that group. An animal's habitat refers to how that animal's placed on the board. Small animals will inhabit 1 hex, but big animals can take up to 2 hexes and can also be placed over different types of terrain to allow the animal to have a larger habitat of 2 different terrains. The animals would then inhabit the entire group of similar terrain that its Meeple is placed on. Now, continuing with actions, on your turn you can place a tree or an aquatic flower. These are 2 different actions, but they are very similar in how you perform them. You will begin by moving your player marker 1 space to the right on either track depending on which action that you're performing, and then you will pay the shown amount of resource shown. If there's a bonus, then you will collect it now. This is the tree track here in the middle, and this is the aquatic flower track here on the bottom. You will then place the tree or the flower on a hex in your jungle. Trees are only placed in forest hexes that are not occupied, and flowers can only be placed on river hexes that are not occupied. Now, another action you can perform during your turn is placing an animal, which is my favorite action during this game. You can either place one of the base animals from the ones still available, or you can place your unique animal if you haven't placed it already. You will pay the cost shown on the bottom left of that card, and then you will place the animal Meeple in your jungle. Each animal can only be placed in certain terrains shown on the card, in this area here. Each animal has a class shown on its card, and this is either birds, mammals, or herptiles, which consist of amphibians and reptiles. And now, maybe one of the more important things to look at on the animal card is the ability, which is shown how it will score points. Each animal is different, and you should place the animals in locations that will score you the most points, depending on each of their scoring abilities. When the last animal of that type is placed out, there are no more, and you will need to place a completed animal token on top of that card. Remember, when 5 of these have tokens on them, then the game will end. If placing your unique animal, you will need to make sure that it is placed to satisfy its unique placement condition along with their terrain condition. If the placement condition, which is shown on the top portion of its card, ever changes and the animal doesn't obey it any longer, it's removed back to its card, and if wanted, you will need to place it out again, taking another action to do so. Once these unique animals are placed, then the player can use its ability, shown in the middle of its card. The last portion on this card shows how many points that animal will score. Another action is to expand your storage, and at the end of your turn you can only keep a set amount of tokens that you didn't use for your next turn. And with this action you can pay resources to increase this number. And like all other tracks, you will move your marker one space to the right, you will pay the amount of resources shown, and you will collect any bonuses. All players at the start of the game will be able to store 1 token, but when taking this action it can grow up to 3. Another action is obtaining a nature card, and there are 6 nature cards laid out for you to pick from, and you will pay the resources shown on the lower left corner of that card. If it's a scenery card, the card is placed in front of that player, and if it's an insect card, then the action is performed immediately and the card is then discarded. A player can collect up to 4 scenery cards throughout the game, and these cards primarily will give points from fulfilling certain conditions during the game. You can purchase as many insect cards as you would like, and you will gain one-time benefits and then discard those cards as you go. This pool is then also refilled, so there is always 6 cards available. The last action is to purchase a bonus, and each of these bonuses are listed on the waterfall. These bonuses can only be purchased once per turn, and these bonuses are very similar to the other bonuses that you will gain throughout the game that are on the tracks when moving your marker past a certain point on the insect cards or when placing something in your jungle. Let's go over some of these bonus actions. This is the relocate action, and you will choose a life, which consists of an animal, a tree, or a flower, and you will move it to a different location. A new location will still need to satisfy the terrain condition, and terrain tiles and special terrain tiles cannot be relocated. Also, you should know that placement bonuses are not obtained through these bonuses, but a placement bonus that reappears can be gained through another placement on that hex. This is the trash bonus. You can choose a token in your discard pile or play area and remove it from the game. This will remove weak tokens so that when you draw, you will have more powerful tokens to pull from your bag. This is the place a special terrain tile action. You will take a 1 hex tile from the supply, and you can either place it on top of an unused hex of a different terrain type to expand the terrain type. If placing it on top of a place with a placement bonus, you do not gain that bonus. Or you can place the tile to expand your jungle. It just needs to be placed so it's adjacent to at least 2 hexes. This is the draw bonus. You will draw a resource token from your resource bag and add it to your play area. This is the gain a worker token, which is actually going to be changed in the final version to a seed token to stay with the nature theme. So these will likely look different, but they can be used when a player needs to pay for an action, and it replaces any resources of a value of 1. And seed tokens can also be used in multiples in the same payment. But a player cannot have more than 4 of these at the same time, and when used they are returned to the supply. This is the Renew Nature card bonus. You will choose up to 2 nature cards from the card pool and discard them to then draw 2 new ones that you might be more interested in getting. So again, players will draw 5 tokens from their bag at a time, use those plus any stored from the previous turn to take any number of actions that they would like, using up their resources. When a player has no more actions to perform, that player will do a quick cleanup by storing the set number of resources that they didn't use this turn for the next one. This number can be seen by visiting the storage track. The remaining tokens are then discarded into the boat. They will draw 5 new tokens from their bag for their next turn. The next player will then perform their turn. This cleanup phase can also be performed while the next player starts their turn so that the game takes less time to play. Players continue playing until 5 animal cards are depleted of animal meeples, and the player who took the last of the base animal meeple receives 10 points, and all other players get 1 last turn. Then, all players add up their points, and the player with the highest score wins the game. You will gain points through 6 main ways in this game. First, from the base animals that you placed out in your jungle. It will explain on the card if you will score for each animal, each grouping, each community, or by your entire jungle. You will score more points for fulfilling the conditions on the card, like having more groups or having a bigger group, whatever it shows on the card. In addition to your base animal cards, you will also score from your unique animal if placed out. In addition, you'll score from scenery cards that you've collected and from the placement that you are on the tree track and also on the aquatic flower track. And then if you were the player to trigger the end of the game, you will also get those 10 extra points. The game includes a little directory of all animal cards, base and unique, and all scenery and insect cards so that you can get those clarifications if needed. And, well, that's Life of the Amazonia. The game definitely gives you room to do whatever you want, and there are plenty of different options when playing the game, and plenty of options when deciding which animals to use in the game. After playing through 4 decks, you also can mix and match your favorite animals to make new experiences from the synergies between different animals and different ways to score with them. The game offers points in plenty of different ways, and you're not stuck performing the basic strategy every single time. Instead, you can explore different ways to play and making different points with different actions. The theme makes for a great game to go along with it. Bad Comet had great animal meeples with their first game, Wild Serengeti, which I played once and really enjoyed. This game continues with the animal meeples and combines them with a strategic game of animal, tree, and flower placement. Really, to do well in the game, you will need to take advantage of whatever you draw out of your bag and develop your bag for getting resources that you need and getting rid of the weaker ones. You will want to take advantage of any bonuses that you gain throughout the game, and this might be beating another player on a track or placing something down in your jungle to gain its bonus so that you can further do something else. The game can do little combos that can also help you have some big turns. But you will then also want to place your animals, your trees and flowers in locations that will score you points. And this might be points from an animal card or points from a scenery card that you picked up or even from both. Overlapping as much as you can will make the game more efficient for that player and can pull in some points by doing less work. Now, this is a prototype, and I will have to say they are still refining some of the details of the game, so I know this all looks good for a prototype, but they are focused on changing a couple things like the way the boat folds. They have already rebalanced the animal cards and the scenery cards, so what I have here might be a little bit different in the finished product, as well as some of the resource token vault pieces. So the game is getting more balanced, which is great to hear. In addition to the discard pile boat getting reworked, the token vault is also getting another look at as well. Overall, I am pretty positive towards this game. I love what I see in the couple of playthroughs I've done. I only played Wild Serengeti once, but have followed the game, and there seems to be some balancing issues from some of the point cards in that game. And I know that they are working on balancing this game because they have changed some of the points on the cards, but usually it takes some good plays to really know if the game is balanced. The last thing I want to mention is I'm a little worried about the waterfall. It reminds me of the tree in Everdell. It's great to look at and super cool, but I hope in just a couple plays it doesn't start falling apart. The other issue is how it will fit in the box in the final version. Will it have to be deconstructed and then reconstructed each time that you play, or are they going to make it fit inside of the box when put together? I'm not sure. I'm less worried about the gameplay as I feel like it's solid, and the adjustments being done at this point are really just helping it be more balanced. Just a little worried about the components and what the plan is for some of them. Though I'm not concerned whatsoever about the animal meeples. They will be great. Anyways, grow your jungle with your family and friends in Life of the Amazonia by Bad Comet Games. Again, this is Boardgame Brody, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Stick around and check out some other board game reviews to see what you might want to get to the table.